Hi, this is Dennis, Second Chance Tackle, and the day has finally arrived where I get to put what came into my shop as a basket case back together. I received a Penn International 955 from one of the subscribers to our channel. They had opened it up and it had a problem here in that the spool was not disengaging when you push the button down, and I come to find out that this spool gear was rusted on to the shaft of the spool itself. It's a common occurrence if you don't keep the reel maintained, and if it winters over or lays in a box for a while on the deck, or just doesn't get used. The lubrication dries out, salt water, and you can tell from the bridge plate here, there's holes in here. Water gets into it and it causes a rust condition. This also had a lot of dried grease on it, and I've gone ahead and cleaned this reel up as best I could, given the condition that it came in. So this is a work in progress, but let me show you what I've done along the way while I was waiting for these parts to come in. I was waiting on the two bridge springs. So I went ahead and I cleaned up the reel. I oiled the bearing in the back. I use a Real X oil for that. I put grease onto the plastic drive gears for the level wind, and there's two sets of teeth. The first set of teeth is driven by the back of the spool. The other piece, the smaller gear back here, drives the gear that engages the worm drive on this, and that worm drive drives the level wind feature. So I've gone ahead and done that already. You won't see disassembly on this because it came in disassembled, but hopefully when you see how to put it back together, the reassembly of it will kind of enable you to reverse this out. Okay, and you can see now that the level wind drive is functioning properly, and all we have to do then is fix the main body. So when I had this apart, I was ordering the pieces for this, I had suggested to the customer to replace the drag washers, and I have them laid out here. I've already gone ahead and lubricated the drag washers with Cal's grease, and you'll notice that on the fabric drag washers there's two different sides. The first one with the larger diameter hole is the first one into the drive, and that's because there's a lip on that main gear drive. Oh, while I have this, let me take this off for a moment and just show you something. So this is how the thing works, right? To get the spool disengaged so that you can free cast, you push down on this button. This button drives a transition piece which pushes this collar out. When it pushes the collar out, it no longer engages with there's a offset here on the spool. It removes itself from this offset, and when it removes itself from the offset, the spool can flow freely. So it kind of pushes down like this. I'm just going to hold it so it doesn't shoot. That causes the trailing arm here to lock a pin into the pinion gear to allow the cast through the drop line. And then when you turn this, that disengages and pushes this up. So what was missing in this whole bag of parts were the two springs that belong on these posts to keep tension on that collar. So we just got those in. I'll show you how to reinstall. And again, if you're just servicing a reel, this is how you would repair your drags. And that's the components that you would look for in a natural setup. So the flat washer goes on the bottom of the pinion gear, followed by your main gear, and that you want to seat that so that it's engaged with the spool gear. First fabric washer I already put on, and again, these have been cleaned and greased. Make sure that you use a drag grease. Don't use something like an axle grease or a general purpose automotive grease. It's way too thick, and it being too thick, it's just going to collect contaminants. It's not going to do what it needs to do. Okay, so the wider diameter one, metal washer, you don't have to lubricate the metal washers as long as the drag gears are lubricated. Then first of the other two, There's an eared washer with a point that goes on next and seats itself into the slots in the main gear. Last of the fabric washers, last of the metal washers. And then there is a collar. So I kind of knew the pieces and parts that belong on this reel. Made an error in ordering the replacement parts. It happens, but if you don't know pieces and parts, you can get schematics for this reel, and you can do a check off on the schematics in terms of what's there and what's missing. So these were the two springs that were missing from the parts that came in, and we're ready to put this back together. So we simply put the collar on there. We make sure that the anti-reverse bearing is lubricated. We go seat this metal plate on top, and we can align with the hold down button. There's a slot in there, and then there's two small screws which goes right where those springs were on the other side. They go into the posts there to hold this down. And those of you that watch my videos know that I have troubles with small screws. Let's see how much trouble these are today. Not as much trouble because there's a little lip there, I guess, that captures this. Okay, that looks good. Let's see if we can get the other one in. I know it's here because when I did the inventory it was there. And I use a parts tray for that particular purpose. I keep all of my parts in a single tray. That way I know where they are when I go to reassemble the reel. So again, if you were taking this apart, you would remove these two screws before you had access to those main gears. Alright, so now we're going to test it before I go any further, because there's no sense putting it all back together to find out something's not working. So I'm going to turn it, and the gears inside are turning, and I'm going to press down on that to make sure that it comes out disassembled, and that when I click this, it returns. It does. So this fellow got a good reel at a good price. He bought this one from somebody. And it's back and serviceable for a minimum charge. Now we go back to put the rest of the case on. There's a couple of screws on this case with washers. I want to make sure that the washers are on. In this case they are. We're just gonna, I love these. They have those little ridges so you can pretty much hand tighten them and just make a final turn with the screwdriver to seat it. You don't want to over tighten anything on fishing reels. Here we go on this side, here we go on that side. Okay, next up are the two spring washers, pinion washers. Now these are concave, and depending on the type of feel you want in your drag, if you want a little bit more firm, or if you want it looser, can actually work three ways. So this is concave is a bend. I know it might be hard to see, but you can put the two bends together. That's the least resistance. You can put the two bends opposite each other where you have a space in the middle. And you can put the two bends where the insides are together and the space is on the outside. And each one of those give you a little bit of a different tension and feel in terms of your ability to tighten the drag. And it's really personal preference. Now I'm going to assume, like most of the reels, they came out face to face, so that's the way this one's going back in. And now we put the star drag back on. And again, if this was disassembled, star drag would come off, those two washers would come off. I would encourage you to take pictures at that point so that you know where your pieces and parts came from. There's your tension spring clip that goes on before your handle. The handle. Next. There we go. Handle nut. Now this looks like it's just a standard 7/16 nut or whatever. You'll notice in my setup here I have quite a few different wrenches. No, it's not that one, but just keep them all by. You never know quite which one you're going to need. Eventually you find the right one, and I haven't found it yet. So let's try this one. Nope, it's just, there we go, close enough. It's I got a metric and I need an American standard wrench. Okay, so only two parts left in my bin here. Then one is the set screw for the nut. That's a standard set screw. Probably could actually be used as a side plate screw on some of the other Penn reels. That goes in. And this, oops, that's why it didn't work that way. Thought it had a lot of leg in it. The cap goes on next. Alright. No matter how many times you do it, it doesn't hurt to take pictures along the way. Okay, so then the set screw sits in the cap. There we go. And this one can go fishing. So we did well. So here we go. Moment of truth. Gotta tighten it down a little bit. Tighten this one down a little bit. And it's going to work. So it might be a little bit interesting to see the whole thing, but we picked this up as a basket case going backwards. We found out that the problem again was the spool gear was rusted onto this pinion. Used a little bit of torch here to heat that up. Metal expands at different rates. It was able to free that up. I showed you the basic lubrication on the back end here. Showed you how to reassemble a drag stack there and the mechanics of how the releases worked in case you had to replace any of those parts. Then the reassembly by putting the two springs on the post, the two screws into the side plate, the external side plate, the concave washers which can work either way. Put the star drag nut on, the little tensioner spring behind it, the handle, and then the handle cap, and we've got a reel that works. So hope that's been helpful to you. Hope that you've played along with this. If you have a reel that needs to be repaired like this should give you most of the information you need to make it work again. So this is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. Thank you for watching the video. And if you'd like it, please indicate so on YouTube. And if you'd like to see more, please subscribe. Thanks again.